All right, here we are with that polynomial times polynomial. I'm just going to move this one over underneath the one on the left-hand side so that we can multiply these. It doesn't matter which order you multiply them in. Remember that either way will be acceptable. So I'm just going to do it this order, and I'm multiplying these. So I'll put a little multiplication symbol out there, and I'm just going to proceed on here. So we have a negative 7 times positive 1, which is going to give us a negative 7, and then a 1 times a 2, which is going to give us a 2, and those are x's, and then that's a plus, so I'll put a plus in. 1 times x squared, which is going to give me an x squared. And now I'm going to move over one place value and continue on multiplying my my negative 2x through. So negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 7 is 14, and x times 1 is, of course, x, and that's a positive. And then negative times a positive is a negative, and 2 times 2 is 4, and x times x is x squared. And then negative times a positive is a negative, and 2 times 1 is 2, and x squared times x is x cubed. And then finally I'll move over with my x squared. X squared times negative 7 is a negative 7x squared. And then an x squared times a 2x is a 2x, and those are cubes, because x squared times x is x cubed, and then x squared times x squared, which is an x to the 4th power. And now I'll add all of these up. So a negative 7 with nothing is a negative 7, and a 2 and a 14 is a 16, and those are x's. And then a positive 1, put in a 1 if it needs to be, right? Positive 1 and a negative 4 and a negative 7. Negative 4 and negative 7 is negative 11 plus 1, which would make a negative 10, and those are x squared terms. Be careful with the variables on these. Make sure you're not doing anything funky with their powers. Remember that once you go to addition, you're just combining like terms, so the variable actually just drags down along with these. And a negative 2x cubed and a positive 2x cubed is 0, so I won't write anything down, and then I'll write the x to the 4th power. So it looks like x to the 4th power minus 10x squared plus 16x minus 7. So hopefully you did well on that one. If not, you can practice a little bit more from there. All right, in our next example here, we just are doing one more polynomial times polynomial, but ooh, we've got some fractions in there. So I've just gone ahead and made it with a long multiplication problem already. Just remember that you don't have to take my advice on this long multiplication. You can be doing this just simply by doing the distributive property. So we're going to do a 3 times an 8, which is a 24, but this is a negative 24 because it's a positive times a negative. And then 3 times 4, which is 12, and those are x's, and it's a positive, so I'll make sure I put in the plus as I go through. 6 from 2 times 3, so that's 6, and those are x squareds. Now I'm going to move over because I'm multiplying through by an x this time. 1/2 of 8 is 4, and those are x's, and a negative times a positive is a negative, so I'll put that in. 1/2 of 4, well, that's easy too, right? That's a 2, and x times x gives me an x squared. Remember, when we're multiplying, we're adding the exponents on the variables, and that's a positive, so I'll put that plus in. And then 1/2 of 2 is 1, and x times x squared gives me an x cubed. So when we multiply, we add the exponents on the variables. Now we're going to addition, and we have to keep this straight between addition versus multiplication. Now that I'm adding, I'm just combining like terms. So negative 24 and 0 is negative 24. 12 minus 4 gives me 8, and those things are x's. And then 6 and 2, that gives me 8, and those are x squareds. Don't forget to put the signs in between those. And then we have 1x cubed over here, so I'll just write that as x cubed. I don't need to write the 1. And that will be my final answer. Now my last one here is going to be just kind of like where we started out with the monomials times binomial times a binomial, except for this time I'm going to have a binomial times a binomial. So I'll multiply this out, and when I get that trinomial, then I have to multiply that trinomial times 2x plus 3, and I can apply my multiplications. So why don't you guys go ahead and try to give that your best shot, and then come back in the next video and check it out and see if you got it correct.